Welcome to the Peach Teach English podcast. I'm Frankie Mesmer, your host, and today I will be joined by Katrina Gonzales, a Texas native, to talk all about Texas. Katrina does have a hat if you want to show us real quick.
Oh, yes, I will. I forgot about my hat, but it does not fit over my headphones. So I won't wear the hat. Yeah.
Yes, no.
So I am Katrina Gonzales, and I have lived in Texas all my life. And honestly, I have not lived around Texas. I've lived in one particular area, which is out in West Texas. I'm super excited to share with all of you about my state. I will say that Texas is vast. It is the second largest state in the United States. Therefore, I haven't visited everything I want to. Many things are still on what I might call my bucket list in Texas. So I'll be sharing with you some of the places that I have visited and some of the culture, traditions, history, geography, etc.
As Katrina said, she is a Texan, a Texas native. I am not, and I've actually never been there. So I'm going to let her really shine and show all her knowledge about her state. And you can tell she loves Texas very much. As she mentioned, Texas is the second largest state in the US. The first one is Alaska. But Texas is so big that you can actually fit 15 different states inside of Texas. So it's very big. But go ahead, Katrina.
So, if we are looking at the state of Texas, we can break it into four different regions. So, we have the Basin and Range Province. And if you've ever heard of Big Bend National Park, that is right in that area. I will tell you right now, this area is probably my very favorite area of the entire state of Texas. It is absolutely beautiful, desert areas, but beautiful mountains. It's just a stark landscape. So many strange and beautiful animals and lots of different flora that is desert, like a cactus and that type of thing. But the vistas that is just beautiful. So the Great Plains area of Texas runs through here. And you can see it's a great large area that runs up into what we call here the Panhandle. And then we have the North Central Plains. Both the North Central Plains and the Great Plains are part of the United States Great Plains area. And finally, we have the Gulf Coastal Plains, and you can see it also borders the Gulf of Mexico, as well as the Basin and Range Province. They border Mexico. When you look at Texas, you can really divide it. This area, the western area, is definitely not as populated as this area. That's a very highly populated area, as well as Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. So the mountains and basins, it covers the smallest area of the four regions of Texas, but in my mind, it contains the most unique features. Even though it's small, it's enormous in my heart because of all the beauty that you can find there. And as I mentioned, we have Big Bend National Park. This is a ranch that my family stayed on as visitors one Thanksgiving outside of Marfa, Texas. Has anyone ever heard of Marfa, Texas?
I don't think I have.
Okay. It's a ranch town that has become like the place where artists have decided to come and has a little bit of weirdness now, the type of people that it's attracted. So Outside of Marfa, they have the Marfa light. And these light, people have seen them since around 1850, 1870. I have seen them every time I've gone. I have seen these lights and they dance. At dusk, you start seeing them come up to you, move away. They're different colors, they flicker. A lot of people have said it's automobile lights, but we didn't have automobiles in 1850. It's just such a neat mystery. And I think a lot of the reason that Marfa has become kind of the place is because of these lights. There it's just fascinating. As I mentioned, we stayed on a ranch and we saw the lights from the other direction too. The guy that owned the ranch had studied everything about the lights and had some different theories, but it was really cool to see them from a different direction. They have a viewing center and everything. People come from all over the world to see the Marfa lights.
Yes, I remember you mentioning the Marfa lights to me, so yes, I did hear about it briefly from you.
It's only in this one tiny part of Texas that you can see them. Some theories have been something about the chemistry in the rock. People have seen something similar to this in other places. There's something going on, but one of my most beautiful theories, or really not a theory, but a story, is that it is spirit of a Mescalero Apache warrior looking for his wife who died. It's just a beautiful, Native American story. So, this area is the Great Plains, and you can see that it does stretch from the north of Texas all the way down to the southern border with Mexico. I live right in here, so I'm on the edge of more than one of the regions. The plains are attracted people from many different countries who were farmers, but it's definitely a diverse area as well. So you don't just see plains in the Great Plain. This is one of our state parks in the fall. Beautiful place to visit and great hiking trails and really enjoyed that. I'd
Very
like to go back.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yes. And then course, Texas has cattle. This is a cow grazing in the bluebonnets, and that is our state flower. And when you drive through this area here, it's the hill country during the spring, you will come across these beautiful fields of bluebonnets. And then there are many rivers in this area. This is the Guadalupe River during the winter time. Of course, this is spring. Then we have the North Central Plains. It it's not as diverse regarding geography as the Great Plains, but you can see the Great Plains area stretches much further. In the North Central Plains, you've got your large cities such as Dallas and Fort Worth. This is a ranch outside of Coleman, Texas, which is in that area. And then longhorn cattle are very much associated with Texas. And so this is a city that's not too far from where I live, Abilene, Texas, that you might see some longhorns. We have the Gulf Coastal Plains next, which is interesting because so much of the Gulf Coastal Plains is not on the Gulf. So you have in this area, you've got the piney woods of East Texas, totally different feel from where I live, the West Texas area. And then it continues to the Gulf of Mexico along the border with Louisiana. Like I said before, it does have a very long border with Mexico. Just some photos. I tried to find photos that I had taken myself because I didn't want to break any copyright laws. So I took pictures, found pictures from when we had gone to various places. This is Galveston Beach, and this is not the beach that we often go to because it's so far from our home, but the Port Aransas Beach, Malachite Beach, these beaches are all along in this area. Galveston is near Houston, so that beach is up in that area. Then, when we think of the Texas Hill Country going into the Gulf Coastal Plains, we think of San Antonio. I would have to say, as far as the large cities in Texas, it's probably my favorite. I think because it has so much history and has been here a long time, over 300 years.
Learning about all the different cities, San Antonio is definitely one of the top cities in Texas that I'd like to visit.
Mhm. It is a great place for people to get the flavor of Texas. It's not just about cowboys or the ranches and that kind of thing, although San Antonio does have that. But it's also about the culture of Mexico and the culture of Spain. And that just all meshes together to create this beautiful place that parties all the time. They have fiestas all different times of the year. But when we think of San Antonio, and sometimes when people think of Texas, one of the things that they know, or sometimes all that they know, is the Alamo. It's a beautiful structure. It is part, though, of many different missions that are in and along San Antonio. It is one of the smallest. So it's not like it's this big, grand place, but it's a tiny kind of mission. We know it because of the Battle of the Alamo in 1836. I think a lot of people have this idea that, oh, Texas won their independence there. They did not win their independence there. It was all about the fact that 200, around 200 Texicans, because there were people who were Mexican citizens as well as people who were immigrated to Texas that were there at the Alamo. About 200 defenders held off. Some people say 1,800, but some people say 6,000 men in Santa Anna's army, the Mexican army, and they held them off for 13 days, which is quite remarkable. All the defenders were killed, and Santa Anna had their bodies burned. But shortly thereafter, Santa Anna was defeated in another battle, and Texas won its independence from Mexico. An interesting little bit of history there. Going to San Antonio, there's so many things to see. The Riverwalk is probably most everybody's favorite to go, and there are places to eat, places that are historical, all kinds of different recreation right there on the Riverwalk. It is like street level, and then you go down one level along the river, and it's just a beautiful place to walk. And they have many of their parties, their fiesta along the Riverwalk. Coming up is all of the different types of parties for Halloween, the Day of the Dead, and just beautiful things that take place during that time period. They have Christmas along the San Antonio Riverwalk. They even celebrate St. Patrick's Day and turn the river green as they do up in the Northeast in Boston. The Alamo is part of the Missions Trail. And I believe this is the largest of those missions that were created by the Catholic Church from Spain originally. This is a beautiful cathedral downtown that even has a mariachi mass, and I have attended that. It's very interesting. The music is all mariachis, which is a form of Mexican vocal music. Then we have Austin, which is our state capital, and it is right here. The Texas state capitol is interesting. And I didn't know this until I was an adult that it is actually taller than the US Capitol.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
Very big.
not by much. And I think maybe 9 feet or something. I'm not going to lie about that, but it's not by much. But I think a lot of people in Texas take great pride in that. Austin is known as the live music capital of the world. That started back in the 1970s with Willie Nelson and all of these kind of rebellious musicians. And it still continues today to be very much a music capital. This is a beautiful park that is many acres, that is near downtown Austin, has many music festivals. Or if you just want to take your dog, a lot of people go on weekends to enjoy Zilker Park.
Looks really big.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And then we have Fort Worth, which is up in the northeast area next to Dallas. So that's why a lot of times you might hear DFW, Dallas Fort Worth. It's because it's really become a metropolis of these two cities with many communities around. So Fort Worth has always been known as the center of the longhorn cattle trade. Years ago, whenever those longhorns were on ranches, they would take the cattle up through the Fort Worth area on to the eastern markets like Kansas City. You can go to Fort Worth today and see the world's only twice daily longhorn cattle drive. I think they said it's about 15 minutes. That would be something fun to go and watch. And of course, they have all the reenactors, people that are dressed up as cowboys and different things to give you that feel. This is one of my favorite museums in the area, and there are so many museums in the Fort Worth and Dallas area. But the Amon Carter Museum of Western Art, I did not know how much I would like it. I really didn't. But it is just amazing, all of the Western art that's been produced. So now I'm gonna take you back to my part of the woods, and which we don't have woods out here, but very few trees, lots of, scrubby brushes, and something called mesquite, which is a tree. The San Angelo rodeo is like the first step to go to the Las Vegas finals, which that's a big deal if you're into rodeo. So that was bull riding, probably one of the most scary things to watch at a rodeo. And I can't imagine actually doing it. And I will say, my husband used to be a bull rider
Wow.
for a very short amount of time because he was keeping it from his mother. She happened to go to a rodeo. He was bull riding and it didn't continue.
Have you ever been on a mechanical bull?
I have not.
Where I'm from in Savannah, we have like a country bar. It's called Saddlebags, and
Mhm.
there's a mechanical bull. I've gotten on it a few times. But I
Have you?
don't think alcohol and mechanical bulls mix very well.
But it's so much fun to watch people who think that those do mix very well. Yeah, and back to Fort Worth, Billy Bob's is like one of the biggest. Honky Tonks, which is a big Western bar. It's right there next to the stockyards.
And do they do
Yeah.
line dancing or anything like that there?
So interesting. I recently had a friend that she's actually from Georgia and we're going to be together soon. And she said, I want you to teach me line dancing. I said, why? And she said, because you're from Texas. I rarely see people line dancing in Texas. It is not the thing. It's just funny that I guess because of movies, it goes hand in hand. At one point, there was a Macarena and everybody get out for the Macarena, but not
Yeah.
much.
I feel like line dancing isn't really so popular unless it's just your hobby, but it's not
Mhm.
like people are having line dancing parties with their families or something like
No,
that.
no, absolutely not. That's funny. Now, This is what you might see girls, women do. There's even a woman who's 80 years old and she still barrel races and does this, but that is another thing you would see at a rodeo. They are incredibly competitive. And I have barrel raced before, way back when. So in San Angelo, it was considered the sheep capital of the world in downtown San Angelo. Of course, I'm in front of the library. They have over 110 of these artistically created sheep, and they're all over the city of San Angelo. They're all over the place. Each one is unique and painted by local artists. One of the things in San Angelo, it is a very much a haven for artists. And everywhere you look, when you don't expect it, there's some art. This is in an alley downtown. These are my three granddaughters and my husband. See, there he is.
He loves his cowboy hat.
So this is El Dorado, where I live. Very small town. I just included this one. See how it's very different from that larger rodeo we saw. It happens at the end of July, and everyone in the surrounding areas, they're there. Always take a sunset picture. And then also American football out in this part of Texas. In fact, most parts of Texas, but West Texas, this is probably the most popular sport in high schools. You'll see it every Friday night as you're driving down the road. This is taken outside of my house just to illustrate that where I live, there's not light pollution. It's just absolutely stunning. On a clear night, you can see so many stars and constellations and meteors. It's just fascinating.
Did you take this picture?
Yeah, with my iPhone.
Your iPhone. Yeah.
Mhm.
iPhone
Mhm.
has a great camera. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty neat. My daughter and my son-in-law are astronomers, and many times they'll bring out their enormous telescopes and set it up and take pictures if something really amazing is going on in the night sky. Then as we keep driving, we head into really the desert. This is during spring and it's called ceniza or purple sage or the rain bush, and it turns purple before a rain. It's the most interesting thing. I have one in my front yard and it doesn't really predict rain, but most of the time, yes. These are purple sage all here. As we get closer to the border with Mexico, this is an enormous reservoir that was created back in the 1960s as a symbol of friendship between Texas and Mexico. And so it borders both. There are three rivers that converge and come into this reservoir: the Pecos River, the Devil's River, and the Rio Grande, which most of you have probably heard about the Rio Grande.
And those rivers are near your hometown.
The Devil's River, yes. The Devil's River starts about 20 miles south of us and runs. It's a beautiful small river, but really amazing sights that you can see. There's also the Texas Hill Country, which Fredericksburg, it has become an incredibly popular place for people to live. We have several movie stars and people that have found this little hole in the wall, tiny city that my family and I used to go and visit, but it is a beautiful city in the heart of the hill country. There are many wineries around now. It's changed the flavor of this community, but it's still beautiful. This is a state park, and Enchanted Rock is something that is a lot of fun to go and climb.
Rock
And of
climbing
course,
terrifies me a bit.
oh, it's a gentle slope, but still, it definitely scared me. I think I went down once about halfway and then I had to get up enough bravery to go further. Then you've got the blue bonnets and the Indian paintbrush. That's all throughout this area. They're just gorgeous. And then the people, we talk about the American Indians, they are Native Americans. They were all throughout Texas. In my area right here, it was some of the earliest people, the Humano. There are no longer Humano people because the Spanish and the missionaries that came through and pretty much wiped out their way of life. Immigration. This is an interesting map because it's a map made by a German man to attract people to immigrate from Germany. Most people think of Ellis Island as the immigration spot for back in the late 1800s and early 20th century. But Galveston was also a huge immigration spot. But it's funny because this is what he described Texas: naturally fertile, wooded, and a fair proportion of water. Now, if you went to East Texas, that would be correct. But so many of the people from Germany and other countries, like my ancestors were Czech, they came out west to find farmland and a lot of it because it was not as densely populated. And then the food. People talk about Texas being big, everything is bigger in Texas. And maybe the food is where it's really bigger. I think you found a better picture of a chicken fried steak, Frankie, in many of the really famous steak restaurants. The chicken fried steak is like hanging off of the plate. It's unbelievable how much.
And it's really
But
delicious. I love a chicken fried steak.
oh, yes, it is once a year, maybe, because it's so much. So many people came here from Mexico or from other countries that are south of our border. But Tex Mex is just ubiquitous in the state of Texas. Everywhere you go, you can find a Tex Mex restaurant. So it's taking a little bit of the people who settled here in Texas, along with the Mexican flavor.
Mm.
And this is probably an enchilada plate with rice and beans. That's just the thing. Brisket is every time I go to an event, people mostly serve brisket. It's just the thing. Kolaches, these are from Czechoslovakia. Then pinto beans, you rarely see baked beans cooked in a pot, and my husband makes some of the best pinto beans ever. And then the big old Texas sheet cake.
I've never heard of the sheet cake. Could you tell us a little more?
Oh, yeah. So it's always created in this large, and I don't know, it's like one of your largest baking pans you would have. For the most part, some people have made some changes to it, but most of the time it's just a chocolate cake with a very rich frosting with pecans.
I love
Because,
pecans. So good.
and see, we say pecans, it's just English. It's different wherever you're from. But the pecan is the state nut of Texas. We
Oh,
have a
okay.
lot of pecan trees. We actually have two in our yard.
Oh, I'm jealous. I would love that. Especially because
Yeah.
buying pecans here can be quite expensive. I only get them for
Yes.
like Thanksgiving meal or something where you just have to have
Yes.
it.
Exactly. Yeah, and they're expensive even here, but if you buy them, but most people have access to a pecan tree somewhere. We have pecan trees all over our courthouse lawn, and during the fall, you'll see people gathering pecans. Then the music, Texas, I mentioned Austin being the live music capital of the world. We have produced many different musical artists and bands. This is certainly not the list. It is just a portion of all the music that's been produced here.
And so, what are some of the different music genres here?
Oh, yes. So I put Selena at the top. She's one of my favorites, and her genre is Tejano. Although before she died, she was moving over to more of a pop feel, country western, of course. There's rock. One of my favorite bands is actually from San Angelo, Los Lonely Boys. They play kind of a blues type of rock, famous for the song Heaven, which was a big hit maybe 6, 7 years ago. So pretty much every type of genre you can think of. Some of the
Mhm.
very first blues artists were from Texas, Lightning Hopkins and Lead Belly.
Thank you. Yes. Katrina introduced me to the Tejano music style. Of course, I had heard of Selena before, but I didn't realize that was the Tejano style of music. And she's very famous, and her music is so fun. I love
Yeah,
Selena, and her story
uh-huh.
is so sad, unfortunately.
But just you have so many stories, not like the end of Selena, but so many stories of people that are in the Tejano world that just grew up from very little and have become so, popular.
I do have a question about Tejano. Is it only sung in Spanish, or do they also do English? Can it be like Spanglish?
Yes, there are several that use both languages. Maybe not throughout all of their songs, but 1 or 2 songs on an album might have both. And I think that's just part of living here. Spanish is such a big part of our world in Texas.
It's on the border, it makes sense, yeah. Last year,
Oh,
I
yeah.
I went to Ciudad Juarez, which is on the border of Texas and Mexico, right? They don't
Uh-huh,
say ciao, adios, everyone says bye. So you see
uh-huh.
that influence from the US there because it's on the border, it's natural.
Yes, I met my husband at my very first Tejano dance. Maybe that's why I love it so much.
Oh, it's your romance story.
It's so much fun, and it's just such a lighthearted type of music.
Thank you, Katrina. Do you have more to share with us, or is this the
That's
end?
it. That is it.
Great.
Let me just share with y'all. These 2 sites are incredible sources of information. If you want to know more, Bob Bullock Museum, which is in Austin, and Travel Texas. And there are more, but I didn't overload.
Thank you for those resources,
Yeah.
Katrina. I think we can go ahead and open up for questions. Do you guys have any questions about the history, the geography, the culture of Texas?
I have a couple comments.
Yeah, go ahead, Jessica.
So I'm going to be doing New York in a few weeks. I just want to say Texas looks so much different from the area of the country where I live. It's cold a lot of the year. It's cold and snowy a lot of
Right.
the year, but during the summer months, it's very green and there's lots of trees and stuff. The geographical landscape is a lot different. And also, I forgot, was it Austin where you were showing the sheep that were painted by artists?
No, that's San Angelo, and that's where I grew up.
So I live in the Saratoga region of New York, which I don't know if you're familiar with Saratoga Springs. Saratoga Springs,
Yes.
like it's a well-known resort city in Eastern New York, and they paint horses. They around the city, like you have sheep painted around San Angelo. They have horses
That's
painted around.
interesting.
Yeah.
I went to a Canadian island called like in the New Brunswick area, and they had painted fish everywhere.
Oh, really?
Ah,
I
yeah.
took pictures with all the different painted fish. And actually, here in Colombia, if you go to Cali, Colombia, you can see a bunch of different painted cats. It's a cat
Oh,
walk.
cool. A cat.
Yeah, it's very
That
cute.
is cute.
Yes. But thank you, Jessica. And I really look forward to diving into New York with you.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I've been
I
to New
know.
York, but only New York City. So I know New York
Okay.
is much more than that.
Oh, yes.
Does anybody have any other comments about Texas or questions about Texas?
And Katrina, I wanted to say you had foods that I hadn't even really fertile. I've heard of pinto beans, but I don't think I've ever had them.
Oh, that is
You know,
so
yeah.
interesting.
Obviously, I've heard of brisket, but it's not like a big thing around here. Like it's so it's
Right.
interesting.
And
And
it's
those,
always smoked, like, on a smoker grill. It's an outdoor sort of thing, the brisket.
I only seen Texas from the movie bits. I love it. Whenever I think of Texas, I think of cowboys. And yeah, but it was the first time for seeing the food part and the art part. Yeah, it was new to me. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm so glad you were here.
yeah, even that part.
It
There was a park lake. What do you call it? There was a lake or river, and then it looked really lovely.
it is, it's a beautiful lake.
Yes.
I had a lot of fun. Like you said, Frankie, you learned about Texas, but I learned things that I had forgotten, things that I'd been taught as a kid, because we do have, I guess it's 4th grade and 7th grade Texas history classes. But yeah, then I took Texas history in college as well.
I need to do one of these for my home state. I haven't done it
Yeah,
yet.
I
So
want to
that
learn
would
more
be
about.
Georgia. Yeah.
oh, I love
Yeah.
Georgia.
There's just some other interesting things about Texas. And maybe you can clarify some details here, Katrina, if you know the facts. So, Texas, when it separated from Mexico, was actually its own independent nation for a while before joining the U.S., which is something Texans are often very proud of. And as you can see
Mhm.
here is the Texas flag. And the flowers are the blue bonnets, the Texan flower, the state flower. But Texas is called the Lone Star State, and that's because it was an independent nation. I mean, that's why you
Right.
can see the Lone Star here in the flag as well.
The amusement park, Six Flags, that's all around the country now, or there's other places besides Texas. It was because there have been Six Flags over Texas.
Well, I didn't realize
Yeah,
that. Thing.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So it was a republic.
And something Katrina showed me last week is that the frozen margarita is actually from Texas. Yeah, the frozen margarita, which is very famous
Yeah.
all over Tex-Mex restaurants, so it makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, guys, we're gonna wrap up. So first, Katrina, would you like to share just a little bit about your teaching business?
Sure.
What you do?
Yes. So my business is called Teaching Hearts, Teaching Minds English Academy, and I tutor students in the middle grades with English language arts. So that would be reading and writing for that group of students. And I do this all online. Get to tutor kids from everywhere.
And so if you don't mind, share your business information. I'll be sure to share that with everyone, Katrina. And that's all, folks. Thanks for joining the Peach Teach English podcast today. I hope you enjoyed this discussion about Texas and learned a lot of information about American culture. And if you're looking for a way to improve your English speaking skills, I'd love to help you. I will offer you a free courtesy class to access your level and learn about your goals so we can decide on the best way to help you take your English skills to the next level. So you can find the link for your free courtesy class in the description. And until next time, enjoy the rest of your day.